What's up, former party people? This is Jerry, the one who actually combs his hair on the A is for Alcoholic podcast. Now, if you're finding value in listening to the AIFA podcast every week and you want to support sharing it with others, we invite you to become a sustaining monthly or per show contributor. Go to patreon.com/AIFA. It's super easy and it only takes a quick moment. It's about as easy as buying one of those pre-cooked space chickens from the grocery store, taking it outside, giving it a big old kiss, and kicking it into traffic. Why would you do that? Anyway, you do you, and I'll do me. Again, go to patreon.com/AIFA. And with that, people, let's start the show.
A is for Alcoholic is a program about recovery. My name is John, and I'm an alcoholic.
And my name is Jerry, and I'm an alcoholic.
Join us as we go through the alphabet of alcoholism, one letter at a time. Welcome back to the A is for Alcoholic podcast. I'm here. My name is John. I'm here with Jerry Wagner Jr.
What's
up? We're here to talk to you about alcoholism, recovery, probably talk about video games, hip hop. Speaking of beats, before we were about to record, I think there was something. The house schedule was a little bit off. Your daughter was playing the drums as we were about to start recording.
Gosh, she don't even have a drum schedule. She just plays whenever the muse takes a hold of her, man.
I thought maybe she could have bust some rhymes over.
I know. You got to hear my dad voice too. I'm like, not right now, Olive. Creative at a later time, but right now I'm hindering that.
Well, the drums are in the next room. It's a little bit difficult when you don't have a studio. That's why.
Let's for a drum set for Christmas. Although I'm all about it. I think it's adorable.
I think it's awesome, right?
That's during Daddy's podcast time when GarageBand crashes on him 3 times and he's got to record the podcast over Skype. Man, we were one level up in the world with a peasant. It was like we were recording on Audacity. We were working our game up. Oh yeah, we're pros. I moved up to GarageBand because of the update screwed Audacity, and now we're back down again.
Yeah.
But this is it. This is raw recovery right here. Raw recovery.
You do what needs to be done. You don't give up. I think that if we had ever hit a snag while we were drinking, we would have been like, fuck it.
Yeah. I definitely the fuck it. The shitfuck stack was definitely. I was like, you know what? Just we're scrapping it. So if the audio on this one sounds a little bit different this week, folks, that's why. So we're recording it via Skype. Right. But we had some technical issues, and you had the fucking the tangled up headphones, and it was just like, right. You know what? And then I was looking for the dongle because I thought maybe I could plug the mic in with the dongle and the phone, but then I realized the mic's a USB plug. It's 2020. These are extra things I have to worry about now, I'm so grateful we get to do a podcast and we have the technology to be able to reach out, talk to each other from 2 states away, or a state away. But still, sometimes it's like all this extra shit means more shit breaks down.
Well, and it's like that you get that stacking and you get frustrated. And if there was any level of alcohol involved, it would have been like, fuck it, whatever.
So, to the listeners, y'all been getting filet mignon for dinner. Tonight it's hamburger helper. We're sorry. Daddy's had a rough day at work. Tired, don't have enough money for pizza,
right?
Hamburger helper, yeah.
Damn, did you ever eat that shit when you were a kid? We used to have we used to do the tuna helper because we could cook it ourselves.
Yeah, I've got a box of that too, actually, that we got for some reason. But yes, I've had quite a few of the helpers. As an adult, actually, not as a kid. My mom didn't make it that much. Very rare. Mom was hungover, was real hungover. We were in hamburger helper.
We used to do this thing. So when Jerry and I, this is before he and I lived together, but we lived not too far away. And you know what's weird is when you lived on High Street and I lived on 18th and you only lived on 15th or 16th and High maybe.
17th,
I remember 17th. I remember thinking it was so fucking far to walk. I was so lazy back then. I would it's fucking 4 blocks away. But we would call each other on the phone. We'd be super broke, always trying to scrape up money for beer, whiskey. And it was this thing where I'd call you and be like, hey man, do you have any noodles or something? Or, if you got some tuna and I got some noodles and fucking frozen veggies. And we try to put together some kind of casserole or some kind of meal between 4 guys.
Yeah.
like
and
just to
somebody
scrape
have
by.
hot dog buns, like just so you could
Yeah.
spoon the mac and cheese into a hot dog bun. Yeah, that was like that Coda casserole that Dakota
Yeah.
we were talking to last week. Yeah,
Oh,
he would make these dinners that were just like cut up hot dogs with like tuna and noodles, ramen and cut up hot dogs. Yeah,
it was
those are 20s.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was such a it never occurred to me to try and like level up. Like I felt, you know what I mean? Like it never occurred to me to try and have a better standard of living at that age. And I
I
mean,
would
I guess you're
wonder.
not supposed to,
Yeah,
but I don't know.
not real. I mean, yes and no. If you were forward thinking, you had more experience, I think you would. That's why I was wondering out loud is whether or not I think that was just alcohol mixed with being a young, irresponsible person, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I know people who aren't alcoholics who also live pretty gnarly. But also, I mean, not to get into the politics or society too much, but it is harder, I think, for younger people now than it was for us. I think it is harder for them. That's, I mean, I don't know. That might be an outside issue.
Um, yes and no. I mean, yeah, sure. It's definitely harder than it was. I think so. I mean,
Yeah,
it's more
rent is
expensive.
way more expensive now. Yeah.
When we
But
were
wages have gone up a little bit, but not too much though.
No, but rent is has increased fucking exponentially.
Mm-hmm.
That first house I was living in '98, we paid $180 each for a room. So it was four guys paying $180 each. This shit was less than $800 for that whole house.
That whole
And
house, the 2-story house is like 1,800 square feet.
it was huge, had that big backyard. So anyhow, hamburger
Welcome to
helper
A's
aside,
for alcoholics.
welcome to A's for Alcoholic. Today, L is for listening. This was a topic that was suggested by one of our patrons on Patreon, which if you're interested in becoming one, patreon.com/AIFA. It's just a place where you can get a hold of other content that we have recorded and you get our episodes a couple days early. So listening, listening, trying to understand. I think of this a lot in reference to the rooms, as we like to call it, and trying to listen to what other people have to say who have more experience. And I don't think that that's really inactive alcoholism or when we're drinking when we were young. I wasn't interested in listening or learning anything. I always felt like just getting fucking fueled up and just going crazy. And I never felt like I rarely remember ever looking up to somebody other than how much they could drink or how cool I thought they were. I
Right.
never felt like I was looking to learn anything from anyone, you
Yeah.
know. And there's also that aspect of just waiting for your turn to talk.
Right. That's the one that comes to mind. I was going to say, though, inactive alcoholism, when I was listening or trying to learn, it was trying to learn how to get more bang for my buck. If someone had better advice as far as how fucked up I could get for how little money or come on, like how many hangover remedies would you fucking file away in your brain there in the beginning, It's just a different thing now. Now these are tangible things that you can actually use in your life. Hangover remedy just helps get you through the day.
It's not really, you're not building a foundation for a better life.
No,
For a
you're
better
just
tomorrow.
figuring out that Pedialyte. Will
Oh,
fucking
Jesus. Yeah. I did that. Did you do that?
yeah.
I
A
mean, because
lot.
I always thought that I had it dialed in when I was like, yep, you get the Pedialyte, and here's the deal: you drink half of it the night before, and you save the other half for the day after. You slam like 4 or 5 ibuprofen just above the what's the legal, not the legal limit, but the daily limit. So
Right.
just above the daily limit, pound the Pedialyte, and like save yourself half a bottle and a beer for the morning, and you'll be fine.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so all of the fucking process of like trying to learn how not to be hungover, that was the biggest.
Those were my lessons. Or like those the hangover pills you would buy from the gas station that were just activated charcoal. And then you just shit out a Memorial Day parade the next day, a Memorial Day barbecue, not a parade. You know what I'm saying though? Like I
think
used to
so.
eat those things. Yeah, I would take activated charcoal all the time because I thought it would soak up the booze and I would feel like not like shit. But I always felt like shit. I always felt like shit. I don't feel like shit all the time anymore though. Just sometimes.
No, I
But
don't.
for different things though, you know, for like lifting weights wrong or like overexerting myself or just generally being in my 40s. I don't know if we talked about this in a previous podcast, but I went and got my eyes checked by my optometrist, and he told me that my next checkup in 6 months I'll probably need bifocals. And then he was a guy who was, I think he's in his 50s. And the way he was, and he's kind of like kind of a cool optometrist, kind of off the cuff, says shit every once in a while, kind of jokes with me, fucks around, kind of weird sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
So he's just like, hey man, really sorry to be telling you this, but yeah, you're probably gonna need progressives, you know, next one around. I'm gonna push these contact lenses. I'm gonna push the strength of them, but you're probably gonna need progressives, buddy. Sorry to be the one to tell you that, but once you're over 44, I'm like, I don't give a fuck, dude. My body is falling apart. I get it. It's just falling apart in a different way than it used to be. I'm cool. Like I woke up outside numerous times.
Mm-hmm. That
Not
was a
meaning
regular
to wait. Like
occurrence.
I went like it was 6 p.m. at my house, and the next day I woke up outside somewhere else. So I'm good, dude. Bring on the bifocals. I'll make them look cool.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think that's a normal thing, dude, and that's not anything to be. I mean, you're not embarrassed. It's just
No, I'm not embarrassed. You know what I'm more bummed out about is my hair's thinning, and it bothers me. Like I was doing some. I know we're talking about listening here, but whatever. But well, you're listening to me.
Yes.
I'm listening to you. Yeah. But I was filming myself with stop motion, working on a commission painting for somebody, and so it was a halo, one of those ring lights. I was lighting up the painting with, and so my head would duck into frame while I was painting, and I could just see all the thin spots on the back of my head, like where it's just I'm not. There's no pattern now. You know, they say male pattern baldness, like it goes in a circular pattern, like you have a piece of bologna on the back of your head or whatever. Like mine's not like that. It's just falling out in certain parts. Like I worked at Chernobyl or something. You know, I was like super fucking bummed about it. That's what bummed me out more than the other thing. And I guess, but that's my vanity. Like it's all part of aging. It's been very interesting to go through my like midlife sober, like go through this midlife, like not getting fucked up and like actually approaching life without that filter of not giving a shit, you know, or that false filter of not giving a shit, you know, because I think there's a big difference between accepting things and not giving a shit, you know, like people are like, I don't give a fuck, you know, and it's like, well, what does that mean though? I don't know.
That's not the same thing as acceptance at all.
Yeah, like these things are happening, and you know what? Whatever. Like they're happening to everybody, you know.
I think that just I think that it's good and healthy to not care what other people think of you, you know? Yeah. I think there's to a certain extent, but just being like, I don't give a shit about anything. Like I have a certain level of apathy towards some things, a genuine like flexibility. You know, I was talking to my girlfriend about this, and I said, look, you know, when you give me a couple of different options and I say I'm fine with either one, I genuinely mean that. Like, but if you want me to choose, then I'll fucking pick one. I'll be like, yep. What do you want to go out to eat or whatever the thing is. And I just want to go backtrack to a second and let people know that for those of you who don't know Jerry, and you didn't know him in his 20s, he had this thick, lustrous, dark, fucking raven-like hair. Like he was all about
God. From the hairline up.
From the hairline up. Dark, rich, fucking luxurious. It had that perfect wave for pompadours. Like I could never get my hair was kind of thin anyway and kind of like too straight. And so the pompadours always had to be like propped up with Aquanet or lots of preening. And so he could totally pull off like the River Phoenix in fucking My Own Private Idaho, where it's kind of just there and it looks messy, but it's perfect. So I get what you're saying there, and I love the
R.I.P. dude, you know, like R.I.P. my badass hair, because like from the hairline up, man, I was ideal. From the hairline down, it was a fucking shit show. Yeah, it was
just a sad stack of baloney.
Yeah, it was a sad stack of baloney. It's like a space shuttle crash, you know, from the fucking hairline down. But Too soon?
No. I mean, I think that my point is that it's just like you get old, and a part of this,
get old.
and I'm going to bring this around here, is that when you talk about being sober in your middle age, you're listening to your body more than you ever were before. You like that?
Yeah, because I did go off the trail there a little bit, but
you jumped out of a window and broke your leg. You
probably shit out of my leg. Yeah.
You and I both probably had a mild case of jaundice once or twice. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
How many times would you have, speaking of, things like flu-like symptoms on a regular basis, and you'd be like, whatever, that's just the way it is today.
That's just how I feel. Now they're like coronavirus, and I'm like, we're all fucked, But
right.
Back then I was like, coronavirus, that shit's lame.
Yeah, I give that to myself every single night.
Go ahead and die, squares,
Right?
Yeah.
So I think that's part of that, like, not giving a fuck about what other people think of you, but not caring about yourself. Like, caring about yourself is, taking care of yourself is a positive, awesome, attractive thing. And I don't mean that in like sexy way, because I mean it is, and maybe it's a little sexy, I don't know. Right. But like it's
like
attractive.
That guy washes his ass, he's fine as hell.
Hey man, I mean people
you recognize it for washing your ass. Yeah. No, I recognize
Wash your ass, wash your hands. Take 20 seconds, sing happy birthday a couple times while you're washing your ass. Right? Get all in the crevices and the cracks and make sure. But you can tell when you see somebody who's either taken care of themselves or who has not.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? And who looks at you like, oh, I would much rather, I like that person, right. Versus somebody who is like having a rough time of it, and I don't know what's going on with them, but you can tell.
And you can get out of that hole too, though. It's hard, but it's work.
You got out of the hole.
Yeah, so did you. Yeah.
So I mean,
so did Coda. You know what I mean?
Did Coda.
Coda looks good. Seeing him on the Skype call, he looks great. He looks healthy. And bringing it back to listening, I was really grateful to be able to hear his story, because I didn't know the whole story, because he and I don't talk very much. I was supposed to call him on his birthday, and I got super busy. And I texted him and said, I'm going to call you after work. And then I got slammed. And then I went home and passed out immediately. And I haven't called him since, because I'm a bad friend. So I should probably give him a call soon. But anyway, it was great to hear his story and to listen to those things we learned, to round it back to listening again. It's the most common way of learning. It's like a primitive way of learning, is listening to these ideas that are being shared. And that's why I appreciate being in the program, is listening. The most I get out of that is listening and watching how other people do it, and learning from them.
One of the biggest epiphanies that I had in sobriety was not necessarily not about me, but it was about my dad. And so for a long time, and there's probably still some deep-seated resentment, and I'm still working on it with him, and he's long since passed, but I was listening to another guy who was talking, this older gentleman who was talking about his mother and about medication that his mother was on that rotted her brain. Right. And all this time, up until like 6 or 8 months ago, I just was always like, my dad was fucked. He was an asshole. He was just a piece of shit alcoholic. Like, even with everything that I have learned in the like 4 years and knowing about the disease, I still had this feeling. Obviously, it's hard when you're a kid and you deal with all that stuff coming your way.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But this guy was talking about his mom and about the medication and how it rotted her brain, and so she wasn't really there. It wasn't really her. My father was on this medication for years, like almost my whole entire life. Actually, my whole entire life. He used to tell me a story about how and this is like in the 70s, where he woke up one morning and his girlfriend was like in the bathroom, like breaking these needles that she had found, because she thought he was like a heroin addict. And I guess this is in the 70s. There was like injections you gave yourself for his asthma that he had. He had like chronic asthma. And so they're like, no, that's my medicine, baby. I need that. So my dad had been injecting medication that was not properly prescribed. At least that was the best they had at the time. So it fucked up his brain from a very early age. Yeah. So that's like him in his like 20s or 30s, I guess.
Yeah.
So that was one of the biggest epiphanies that I ever heard, was like, oh, you mean my dad was mentally ill? And like, of course, duh, he was an alcoholic. But I was like, oh shit, it was like tenfold because of all the the drugs,
Yeah.
the prescription
Amplified.
medication,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So if I hadn't been there, or if I hadn't been listening, or if I had, and I don't know if you do this sometimes, where I'll be in a room and somebody will be talking, and then I'll start to think like, there's nothing here for me, or I'm like, man, I really got to pee, but I don't want to disrupt things, or I think about anything. I'm like, yeah, maybe I should have put some more sugar in this coffee, or some more stevia, or
Yeah.
like, oh, I got to get out of here. I'll look up and be like, yeah, it's fucking 23 more minutes of this shit, and I'm just like, and I've gotten better to the point where I stop myself with those thoughts, or I go, okay, that's fine, but like, let's really try to be like active in this listening. Let's really try to like, let's not try to analyze everything, and let's just kind of like take it in. You know what I mean? Because I'm always like, I always want to get in there and say, oh, so they're saying this, or she's saying this, and that means this, and that's how this applies to me. And I'm constantly trying to analyze everything, and that's not really listening either, I don't think, as opposed to just being a open vessel. Yes.
An open vessel sponge. I was like, soak it up. And I think sometimes too, people are expressing themselves just to be heard. They're not trying to necessarily teach you anything, but you still learn from those things. I think I learned something. Sounds like a cliche, but I think I learned something from everybody, whether it's positive or negative, whether it's a behavior or an attitude or an opinion about that person, which makes me question myself and why I think that way. And listening's a funny one. It's not a funny one. It's a something I'm not great at sometimes. I mean, you can ask my wife, but I think even our communication has gotten so much better. But see, I think we do this a lot in the podcast, and I'm glad we do it, but I also hate to be repetitive where I say this is how it used to be and this is how it is now. You know? But that's a great example of it. It's just the way we relate to each other, that there's core things are still there that keep us a couple, that those kind of way that we rely on each other and depend on each other and accept each other and help each other out, but and laugh at each other and shit. But now I'm really invested in what's going on there. Sometimes I check out, like I'm a human being. Sometimes I'm just like, boo, I don't, man, I got a lot on my mind. I just want to play the Division right now. Yeah.
How is that game? You like that game?
Super fun. I love it. Looter shooter,
Tom
man.
Clancy?
Yeah, but I mean, Tom Clancy roughly was like, I don't know, Plague, and then they make a game around the Plague or something. But I've never read his book, so I don't know. I just know you shoot things and then you get guns for it, and then you shoot more things and you get guns for those things.
I don't want to harp too much on this, but it's been on my mind as far as like the coronavirus stuff and things like that, and holding hands and shaking hands and shit like that. Like, you and I both meet a lot of people. How do you I mean, are you like a fist bump kind of guy nowadays?
No, I just shake your hands. No, I just wash my hand. I work at a tattoo shop, so I wash my hand probably 3 times as much a day than other people do, because I wash my hands to set up. I wash my hands to break down. If I go to use the bathroom, I wash my hands then. Sometimes I'll wash my hands after I leave the bathroom of the shop and go back into the tattoo shop, because the bathroom at the tattoo shop is a public bathroom. It's shared among 5 units, so it's really gross. So I don't even trust wash. I'll wash them there and then open the door up with a paper towel. And as soon as I get in the shop, I'm just like, man, I don't trust any of that, and I'll do it again. So I'm constantly, my hands are really dry right now because I've been washing them. I guess I've been washing them a little more than usual, but nah, I'll shake your hand. If you're super fucking sick and I see you coughing your hand, then I'll just wave at you.
But, right.
But I mean, I touch people all day long,
Right.
So for me, it's like, yeah, I don't know. Like, are they not holding hands at the meetings at the end right now in California?
Oh, I don't know. There was something that occurred
linking arms.
Yeah, I thought about linking arms, but I felt like that was, I don't know. I held hands this last time.
I did an all men's, like a stag meeting recently, and none of those dudes hold hands and they do this ready prayer. They're like, I ain't holding your fucking hand.
Wow.
That's weird. A lot of masculinity in that room.
I don't know.
Out of place.
I guess I've just washed my hand. I mean, I work in a restaurant, so I mean, I'm constantly like washing my hands. I'm constantly like, okay, because it's food, it's people. Yeah.
Like if you fist bump me, like you put the fist out, I'll give you the bump. I'm not afraid of that. But if you put your hand out, and usually I put my hand out, this is out of habit. I don't even.
Well,
but I had a guy, and I know this is off topic, but so I was picking up some Indian food, and I see this dude that I kind of know that I worked with like a while back at some other place, and he comes out of the bathroom from the back hall, and he reaches his hand out to shake mine, and I'm just like, I don't really even know him that well, and like he just came out of the bathroom, and I'm picking up food.
His hands are super dry.
No. And so I kind of reach my hand out to give him the fist bump. And then his hand, like he goes with the shake with the open hand, and his hand's wet. And I'm just like, like, what's going on here,
That's good
dude?
though. And then he washed his hand, or he peed
Does
all
it?
over his hand,
Or he
and
found
he's
a
like,
fucking quarter in the
"Fucking job."
toilet. Like,
Yeah, he found a quarter and it dropped his phone in the toilet. I imagine he washed his hands if they were wet.
I imagine.
But I mean, you can't trust anybody. But you can't get the coronavirus through pee, so you'll be all right.
Yeah. So
if that's what you're worried about, is the COVID.
I don't think that I'm worried, although I know somebody who recently got sick who stayed home and like has flu-like symptoms, so I don't know what they have. Maybe not. Maybe it's just a cough. But yeah, no, I'm not worried. I mean, I'm pretty fucking healthy. I talked to my doctor yesterday. I went there for unrelated things. And she just said, "You're very healthy. Just wash your hands and be aware." And so
Right. I think I already had it in December.
I
got real sick in December and I ran a fever for like 4 days and had a cough, a really bad cough. No runny nose, nothing else, just cough and fever for like, had the cough for like a week. So I don't know. Who knows, man? That's bugging me. All right.
Patient zero.
But patient zero, I'm the one who fucking spread it. You're welcome.
Yeah. So just that whole listening thing has been really. I can't stress it enough that how important it is, and also it's much easier in the beginning to just sit quietly. You'll hear from a lot of people. They're like, you got to share, man. You got to get in there. You got to be a part of it. You got to, you know what I mean? If you're not contributing, you're going to die. And I'm like, well,
fuck it. You need to share so the newcomer can hear, or they'll die too. I'm like, oh man. But I have attended meetings with people regularly who have died from this disease, and I do prescribe to the alcoholism and disease theory, or the concept of it, but I don't know. You know what I mean? So I know you once you go through recovery, like you'll get close people, get to know people, and they will die. They'll go back out and shit. But that being said, the only reason I make light of it, I think I joke about it, is because it's so scared straight. And I was one of those troubled youth where I grew up. you tried to scare me straight, and I was just very resistant to that. You know what I mean? Like, you don't listen to your mom and dad, you become a crack addict and die. And I'm like, motherfucker.
You don't know.
You don't know. You got some crack?
So I think it's okay. And I think one of the other things that really scared me was having to say anything at all, to admit what I was, or to say anything out loud. And so, I mean, I don't even know if I did in the first time that I ever went to a meeting. I think I may have just like sat quietly and didn't say shit like the first few times, Yeah.
My first 2 meetings were NA meetings. So I didn't say nothing. I just sat and was like, wow, I don't know if this is the right thing for me. And then I found an AA meeting. I ended up going to the NA meetings because the guy who was my cab driver used to drive me around drunk all the time, got sober through NA. And I wanted to get sober. And I was like, oh, homeboy, who was my cab driver, who gets fucked up all the time, is going to NA. I should hit him up and ask him about a meeting, because I had no resource. I didn't know where to go. So I hit him up and went to those 2 NA meetings. And then I called my dad and I'm like, I don't know what to do, Dad. I've been sober now for about 10 days. I think I'm going to quit drinking, but I'm not sure. I'm going to take a break, but I kind of want to go to some meetings. And I went to these NA meetings and I didn't really like them, because it wasn't really, I don't fuck with any of that stuff. I just like to get really drunk. And my dad's like, oh no, you need to do that and this and that and this. And so then I looked it up online, and there used to be this awesome resource online called SIM meetings. And it had all the meetings in Eugene, Oregon listed out in a table by day. By what day and what time. That it's long gone now, but that's how I started going. My first few meetings I shared, but it was all word salad. Like it was just all, I had no concept. I had no, to this day when people share, I don't understand how they can carry one train of thought and go from one point to the other without digressing and going off on a path, which is what I do every time. Then I feel like I'm not contributing correctly, but that's all insecurity on my end. I would much prefer to listen to what someone has to say because I take those things home. I write them down on my dry erase board sometimes in my kitchen, and kind of go use that as my resource. So it's very important for me to listen. It's more important for me to listen to talk. This is my time to talk right here on the podcast.
This is your
You know
hour.
what I'm saying? Yeah, because if you're out in Eugene and you listen to this and you see me in a meeting, 9 times out of 10 I'm not going to say shit. Like I'm just going to listen because so many more people have figured it out and I want to hear them. What I haven't figured it out, I'm just here to learn it.
That's funny that you say that because I shared at the last meeting I was at. It was I was asked to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got up and I spoke, and I kind of have this I have this idea about what my story is and how I want it to go and how I want to say, and it never goes the way that you want it to, because I don't have it all dialed in. And excuse me, I don't think it would sound very good if I did have it all dialed in, because I've heard those too, and I'm just like, oh, this person said this 1,000 times.
Yeah.
But one of the things that came out of my mouth was something to the effect of, oh, I come in here, I sit quietly, and I often try and sneak out as soon as I possibly can. And somebody else came up to me and they were like, oh, and they said something to the effect of like, oh yeah, you do. It's really nice to get to know you a little bit more, because you totally do sit here quietly and then sneak out.
Yeah.
And I like to listen. And I've also been torn. I started leaving my phone in the car just because I don't want it to buzz in my pocket and be distracting.
Yeah.
So I was like, I just more of like an intentional, let's be present. I put my phone in the car.
Absolutely.
I bring my $2 bills, one for the basket, one for the pink can, and that's it, right? And my car keys. But so it was great to talk to this guy, and then he was telling me how him and some other dude would get together and they would read the big book, and they would like pick words out, and then they would go in the dictionary and they would just go like, what does that word mean? What does discerning mean? And they're like, oh, this means this and this means this, and they'd have like this whole fucking big conversation at a coffee shop with a dictionary about like what all these words mean.
That's great.
It was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, this is what, this is the kind of stuff that I'm missing out on a lot of times by like sneaking out. But I really do like to sit there and listen. And I'm thinking, I don't want to bring my phone, but I really need to start bringing like a little notepad and a pen, because there's been moments where I'm like, oh man, you got to remember that. But if I try to keep that in my head, and then I'm going to forget it and whatever. So I think it's really valuable to be able to take those things home and put them on the dry erase board.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know, just have them. Not just to find a way to apply them to my life.
Right.
That helps me do better.
There are not very many instances in my life where I get to get advice like that. You know what I mean? That where I get to get those kind of life lessons, from other people who have lived their lives. There's not very many. I mean, I get them from you too. You've inspired me to do things. I've inspired you to do things, just even in our recovery from just talking and listening to each other, But it's always the antithesis of active alcoholism, in the sense that active alcoholism is very self-centered. So why listen? You just close off. You crawl into your little hermit crab shell, your mental hermit crab shell, and you're safe and comfy in there, until you have to go back out in the world again. And the world tells you, no, you can't be drunk all the time. You're like, fuck you, I'll show you. And then you go back and then bad things happen though,
I'll show you.
If alcoholism were just an insular disease and you only harmed yourself, then I'd be like, good luck. A lot of people are going to be hurt because it's never that way. But if it were, like, if you existed in a vacuum, I'd be like, well, God bless you, good luck to you, But
don't.
It affects no, it's all outward. It's like in active alcoholism, it's almost like you're standing in a crowded room just swinging your arms around thinking you're not hitting anybody, and you're just tagging everybody in the room, hurting my wife, hurting my daughter, getting out there in a bicycle, riding in the middle of the street. You know what I'm saying? Like trying to start fights in bars, like
all that
trying
shit.
to start fights with my friends, like all that shit. It's all actively It's all just actively fucked up. I can't think of the word right now. Maybe I should do some more listening. Maybe this should have just been an hour of us sitting in silence.
Well, that'll be M for meditation.
And
But yeah, man, it's such a like you said, it's if it were just an insular disease, it wouldn't be fine, but it's not. It's so destructive and so like the hermit crab thing is so true.
yeah,
I would it just got I felt like it was so much better if I was just alone and drinking and alone. But of course, I always had some weird portal. I always call somebody drunk or fucking post on Facebook 14
right.
times.
Reach out because you get lonely and want some back and forth.
Something.
No one
right?
else is as fucked up as you are at that moment. Someone is, but they're probably not on Facebook.
And if they were, they wouldn't be interested in me. They would be interested in themselves, right? So I think about that a lot, about the isolation and the just wanting to just be away. And if I could just be left alone to get as drunk as possible, then everything would be fine. And like that's just not the way that it works anymore for me. I couldn't do half the things. I mean, I think about like waking up in the morning and doing, you know, whatever it is I have to do in the day. Like I had to go do this training. That's the other thing I wanted to talk to you about. So I had to do this training for this new restaurant job, but I was like, oh, I don't know if I have enough time to go for a run. And I was like, I'll just go for a short one. And it's like, I end up doing 4.5 miles because I was like, oh, I got plenty of time. It's not going to take me that long. I think I'm still in this mindset where I got to make sure I give myself enough time to get ready because
that's exactly what I'm there. That's where I'm exactly where I'm at.
Because I think there's something in the back of my head or in my like whatever subconscious where I'm like, I need to lay around for 4 hours before work. Because I'm going to be so hungover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's nothing more than just like sweat it out, take a shower, cold compress, ibuprofen, try not to feel like hell, but I don't need that anymore. I was like, oh, I went for a run for almost an hour and then I come home and I take a quick shower and I make some food and like, oh, it's time to go and it's no big deal. Right. And I have so many memories of it being so stressful and rushed and like hurried and forgetting things and being in a fucking horrible mood and
And now it's doing wine testing. Yes. What do you call it? You don't drink the wine.
Well, I don't know. It's not a tasting. There was wine training, wine education. So I'm working in this new job, or I'm going to be at some point. I hope they said they're going to open soon. I don't know. They need to open soon, or I'm going to find another job. But so part of it is wine education. So they had this guy come in and open up all these bottles of wine, and they pour them all out. And of course, they say, oh, there's no pressure to drink. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine because I'm not going to. But so swirling it in the glass, they're talking about where it came from in Italy or France or California or whatever. And most people are taking a sip and spitting it out and then putting it in the big dump bucket, which is pretty fucking gross. But I just kept thinking in my head, like, damn, that's a lot of wine. Like, wow, that's a party right there. It's fucking just 3 liters of spit wine. Yeah, mouth wine. Like it's gross, but that's my thought. Not that I would really do that, but or, in the past, it'd be like, oh, there's all these open bottles. Let's go get fucked up. Let's go take what can we take home? And we'll just pound it.
Home, yeah, because you would just go tell the guy, like, hey, I'll take these off your hands since they're already open.
Yeah. And here's another thing. So, and this guy was super cool. So the guy who did the wine education, but he I told you this, where he ran 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents.
Right.
So like he was just a normal dude who loves wine and loves to run and whatever. But so he's doing all the tastings. And so I got my nose in this wine all day, every day for like 3 days.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, yeah, I mean, I think I'm used to it because I work around it all the time, but I'm like, yep, smells like wine. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Blueberry cobbler. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm like, I just need to know the words to use to sell the shit,
Right.
I mean, but we had a guy come in and do the spirits tasting. And this was interesting. He's seemingly happy dude. He was very excited, had all these things to say about tequila and the vodka and the gin and the whiskey. But at one point, somebody asked him something about like if there was anything else he liked to do or what else did he do outside of like the spirits world or something like that. And he said to a group of people he was training, kind of half joking, but not really. He's like, well, I'm kind of really a lonely guy, and this is really all I do. I do this, I drink a lot, and there were some jokes about being hungover or whatever, and it was like, it was so weird. Like I feel like he just like got honest for a half a second, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
popped out. Was like,
Did
I'm
you
really
12-step him?
I didn't know what to say, man. It was just so, it was fucking trippy, and I was like, I wanted to be like, bro, it's okay. You don't have to do this anymore. But I just dumped the fucking tequila in the bucket and like
Right.
left.
Just smelled it. Yeah, it smells like
Like,
fucking
I was like,
anejo.
basically, yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, and whatever if I have my 2 cents here and there about something, but it was just so weird that he would say that out loud, and I think he was kind of trying to make a joke about drinking, but I think that's too is something we
Well, and
hear.
everybody laughed, right?
Yeah, and everybody
Yeah.
laughed.
Except for you. You were in the back of the room all,
I was like, I
hmm.
know how you feel, bro. You want to talk about it?
Yeah.
I'll meet you behind the community center at fucking 3:00.
Right. Right. You just open up the basement door. You're like, here's where we go. Right? Smells like cigarettes and old Bibles down there.
But like it was just a trip, and I'm thinking to myself, like he meant that partially as a joke, but like there's
a
some grain
nugget of truth. Yeah. A kernel of truth.
A kernel of truth where he's going to go back to his well-stocked bar in his Brooklyn apartment somewhere and just go mix himself some fancy cocktails and sit alone.
Yeah, I tattooed a guy who was a bartender yesterday. Did I work yesterday? Whatever day I worked last Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
He's like a bar manager, and he manages an Irish bar that does just Irish whiskey pretty much. They're called Pint Pot. And it's a pretty good bar. I mean, I don't know. I never drank there because I was like, I even told him, I was like, you fuckers open up a whiskey bar like a month after I fucking got on the wagon. And but he was talking about nothing sad or anything, just like, yeah, he's like, yeah, I love Irish whiskey. I go home and have a nice, he said some Irish whiskey name, and he's like, over cold soapstones.
Sure. You don't want it to water down, right, with the ice?
I guess so. What is that? Is that just a rock you put in the freezer?
Yeah, it's a frozen rock.
Yeah. So, and then I thought of this man, this young guy, because he was in his 20s, like his ritual of like going home and having his drink, maybe two, and then going to bed. Do you know what I mean? And like, it just lays in comparison to my attitude and the way I still think about alcohol. I still think about it, and there's never moderation in my mind. No. So I live a life of abstinence from alcohol because there's never moderation. I could not think of, and not because I'm like doing the big bad alcoholic talk, like my brain just doesn't process the idea of one of anything, to be honest with you. Like even with this calories in, calories out thing, like I'll eat the serving, but my brain is still clicking like, no. And it takes a lot for me to like not do the extra, I have to use my, recovery training to like not do that other shit, like I just eat one Oreo. Like I can just eat one fucking Oreo, right? But the other two are like, come on, man, there's 3 in a serving. Hey, I'm like, buddy. I just want one though. Hey, buddy, we're filled with mint, bitch. It's not even real mint, But I thought about him in the same way. It's these people you encounter out in the world who you listen to them.
You listen to, and well, yeah, like that's and maybe there's nothing wrong with this dude who just likes to have his 2 whiskeys and go to bed.
There's nothing. I don't think so. He's just a young guy who works in bars and is doing that bar thing. So I'm like, cool, man. Like, and even if you're like, yo, I pound a whole fifth, I'd still be like, cool, man. Godspeed. If you start following me on Instagram, maybe send me a message sometime if you need help.
That was the other thing this guy said. They were joking about something about, he was talking about the sober curious movement and how it's much more popular to be curious about being sober and not drinking. And he said there's these bars where they don't serve alcohol. And he was like, and I don't understand that at all. A bar without booze? What is that?
Yeah.
And my opinions,
called a coffee shop.
Right. So my opinions on it are I would never go. I don't find it interesting. I would want to find other ways to socialize, but I think there's some value for some people in some situations, right?
Right.
Like, but I don't think that I would ever be one to be like, hey Jerry, you want to go to the bar and drink some fruit juice, like fancy fruit juice stuff?
Well,
like,
here's the thing: is I would probably go, but I would just get a Diet Coke. Do you know what I'm saying?
You're
But
still
I'd go
just a
to,
basic
like,
dude.
sit with,
Yeah.
yeah. I'd just go to sit with other people, I guess. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can do that in bars too. I can. I just like you can stick your nose in a wine glass. Like I can sit in a bar. I can't sit there for long because I start getting bored.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Right. That
And
too.
people start getting sloppier and sloppier, and it really it depends on the people I'm with. You know, if it's people I really love a lot, you know, like really good friends of mine, I don't mind them drunk most of the time because I was around them drunk when I was drunk, so there's no new information being given to me in that moment.
Right.
Whereas if it's newer people that I don't know, and then they, you know, they drop all the facade and they all their inhibitions drop and they start getting a little weird and glassy, then I'm like, oh man, I don't want to be fucking with you. But if it's like any of my really close, most of my close friends, it depends on the friend, you know.
I think it's funny that, like, if I were to say, hey, let's go to this dry bar because they got this really great, like, elderflower and saffron kaffir lime
I fucking
spritzer,
laugh at you, but I go.
and you would be like, yeah, I'm just going to get a Diet Coke, which
Yeah,
is exactly the same way when I started bartending and I was like, we got to go to this fancy cocktail. And I tried to give you like a $16 Armagnac and you just wanted a Jack and or a Beam and Coke.
It was like a $20 Armagnac, dude. Yeah. And I
And you
fucking almost
spit it
threw
out.
it up. Yeah, spit it out all over the bar. Yeah, because I was like, give me a
Embarrassing me.
shot.
Yes.
And I thought you were like a nipple or like, do you know what I mean? Like an adios, some fucking girly drink. And men drink those drinks too. But you know what I mean? Like some fucking
Yes.
basic beginner fucking drink. Like that's the shot I wanted. I'm like, I want something layered that tastes like a cake. And you're like, here, have some gross ass Armagnac. And I was like, oh, this smells like hazelnuts. It must be delicious. And it was not. But it's true. It's exactly the same thing. You'd be like, come try this crazy fucking booze with me that has all kinds of extra shit in it. And I would just walk up and be like, give me a Beam and Coke. You'd be like, can't take you anywhere, dude.
Basically.
Even now, I would totally go to the elderflower bar and be like, I'd take a little sip of your elderflower and be like, Coke Zero.
You know that the problem, you want to know the biggest problem I would have with that is the level of sugar that goes into them. I wouldn't want to drink all that sugar.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're just replacing the booze with sugar. You need the sensation of something overwhelming, you know, which is fine. It's totally fine. I actually have kind of changed even my outlook on the whole sober November, whatever, all that. We've had podcasts about me being like, I don't know. Well, I haven't accepted it as far as like, I haven't embraced it, but I'm like, you're going to do what you're going to do. Like, I know, you know, I guess I haven't really changed my attitude because my follow-up is going to be like, it's kind of silly, but you're going to do what you're going to do. Yeah. But who's all or nothing, right? I guess I'm an all or nothing person.
Me too. Me
and
too.
I shouldn't apply that to other people, but like we have a friend. We have someone we know who took a year off and is back on again, I believe.
I believe.
Yeah.
And
which
they
power to them, you know.
They made a choice and they are I as far as I know, they're happy.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't care.
And I have no ill will against that person
No.
or anything. I just notice these things. I'm not dumb. I'm like a goddamn booze detective.
Mm-hmm.
Your Instagram stories.
Right.
Salt on the rim. You know, but like at the same point, it's really honestly.
But there's no judgment.
My opinion means nothing. Yeah. There's the only judgment there is one of like whimsy is the wrong word, but one of like amusement. Like, oh, okay. But even then, I'm like, I don't know you. I don't know what you deal with in your personal life or private life. I don't know if maybe you just got a little out of hand and you're like, I'm gonna take a year off.
And you dialed it in and everything's fine.
Yeah, and then everything's fine. Lots of people have done that. I've talked to lots of people. We just talked to Coda last week who does not drink but doesn't use a program. I mean, as far as like doesn't go to he uses his own program, but you know what I'm saying? Like, and I have no judgment. I'm proud of him, you know, like I'm like really proud of him. Good job, you know.
Which, you know, come to think of it, like it makes perfect sense.
I think.
What's that?
I think he thinks that we kind of judge him like, oh, he's on a dry drunk. And I'm not at all. I'm like, you figured something out. Like, show us the way, fucking Master Sage.
Well, that's what I think is like, I should have known that he was going to like pave his own way or do his own thing. He's like, yeah, man, I don't need that. No,
I don't need that.
I got it figured out over here. And so
I know he listens to these sometimes too, and he'll probably listen to this and be like, "Those fucking guys are talking about me." Keep your name out of my mouth, Wagner.
Well, I'll give him the opportunity to come back on and give his rebuttal. But
PS headset.
His PS4 headset.
Great, I love it.
It's awesome.
But yeah, man, I think that I don't know. The dry bars I think they're good for people who enjoy them. And I think more power. I would much rather have a bunch of people who are out there drinking fucking fruit juice and getting behind the wheel than
Yes.
other things.
And
So
having a genuine, at least what appears to be a genuine, sober, good time.
good time.
Instead of using alcohol to like enhance, because it is an enhancing drug. It can work in positive ways at times. It just doesn't work that way for me because I'm an alcoholic.
Doesn't work.
That being said, like you said, I'd rather you drink a bunch of fucking elder water with Sprite and a fucking lime and get behind the wheel than the shitload of chamucos, you know.
I'm getting really like, speaking of, it's hard. It's really hard to have restraint and resolve sometimes, even like, not about alcohol for me anymore. I'm not going to drink, but like, and I thought about you and the way that you're really good at portion control that I don't, with some things, I am not as good with that. Like they brought all this food out and there was this fucking rich, beautiful mac and cheese. There was this rotisserie chicken. They had this pate and duck liver mousse. This shit looked delicious.
That
and I was like, man,
great. Yeah.
And this was yesterday when there was no exercise, like there was no cardio. So there was no calorie deficit to mess around with. And I was just like, and nobody cared. Nobody said a word. Nobody like tried to hand me a plate or a fork or anything. Nobody gave a shit. It was all in my own head. But and the fucking fresh baked chocolate chip cookies.
I overdo it at those things. So every time I will, I don't give a fuck. I'm like, I'm maintaining. I'll overdo it. I'll pay for it tomorrow. Just like drinking. Yeah.
Right.
I'll pay that bill tomorrow. Anyway, so what did you?
No, I did.
Oh, but you don't eat meat though.
Not really. No, not really. I had some anchovies the other night, but that was about it.
What a weird snack, dude.
It is
just
a weird
by themselves in a little fucking ramekin.
Yeah, basically.
So you're scooping them out of the carrot.
Basically, I just ate them straight.
It's a weird ass snack.
My whole life is weird ass snacks, dude.
Odd couple, dude. Jesus Christ, you're like Jack Klugman, like stinky cigars and
eating sardines. I eat avocados in the car. Like I carry a little Perry
put it in the fucking in the green holder, like with your sweet potato. Yep. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, but it was just, and even today they had like the chocolate chip cookies. The pastry chef, she's like, "Yeah, I think I finally perfected them. These are really, really good." And
I'm like, "Fuck you, bitch!" Like, no,
they're not on the program right now.
I do them. I do. I'll do like, oh no, I'm not gonna lie. I'll do one. Like Megan will take me to these like real estate parties, and I'll totally fuck it up. I don't care. I'm like, bills due tomorrow. Bills due tomorrow. I'll deal with it tomorrow. But then I don't eat like that for another like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. Do you know what I mean? But then I'll have that one time where I'm just like, yeah, it's time to get fucking wild. I'm like, yes, prime rib. Thank you very much. The greatest piece you got, Danny Clayton style.
I eat a bunch of popcorn, which is not terrible, and I eat grapes, which are not terrible. Yeah. So I mean, but it's also
that salt and butter, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I don't put any butter on it. And anyhow, this episode's about listening, but I think it's more listening to my body and trying to listen to like what's good for me and what's not, and listening to the fucking voices in my head.
Right.
And also trying to not break down not to feel bad or guilty or shitty when I want to have something tasty, you know. But that little voice, it's like, fuck it, just have some more. Did I tell you about the
the additional, the one that keeps telling you to keep going? That's the one you have a problem with, yeah.
That my girlfriend made me. She's like, I got a little dessert treat for you on your birthday. So I went over there and she cooked dinner.
Apple.
No, it was the sugar-free ice cream or like maple syrup ice cream, whatever it was. It's like organic peanut butter, like natural peanut butter, and it was this fruit sweetened like jelly. And she made it in this little sundae, and it was so fucking good. And Jerry, it hit the spot in the brain. You know, the one where you're just like, oh my God, this is like, I need to have more of this. And I have a bowl in front of me, and it's in my mouth, and I'm thinking I need to have more.
Yeah, like, how do I get more when this ends? I need to get more of it. You have all of it, but it's not enough because it's going to go away, and then you have to figure out how to. I do it all the time.
Right? It's going to go away.
All the fucking time. I do it like every day. It's going to go away.
That's it. That's
my
the
fingers.
voice.
Yeah. It is.
Oh my God.
That's the alcoholic.
Go away, and I need more. And so I even like my birthday was on the 3rd. So that's like a week ago, right? Or something like that. Like it's over a week ago. made just over a week ago, and it's just like, oh, it was so good, and I've been thinking about it for a week. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, I could go get some, but I know that I would eat the whole pint, and I would fucking crush half the jar of peanut butter, and I would eat the half jar, maybe the whole jar of jelly, and that would be like a day and a half's worth of fucking calories in one sit.
Relapsing right there. You're just gonna relapse all that shit.
So that's what when I think of cookies and fucking rotisserie chicken and all these big bowls of mac and cheese, like they didn't eat it all, and I was like, I would have fucking like ate that whole bowl, motherfuckers. You guys are all just having little bites and shit. Like, that's how I think about everything. So I have to be more diligent. So if I break down and feel bad because I had 6 cups of grapes, like that was my like big fucking blowout that night.
Well, you also have to have a healthy relationship with it too, and understand that, like, you know, that you shouldn't beat yourself up on it. But you know, that's a whole other thing. Are you maintaining or actively losing still? Are you maintaining? Maintaining's harder than losing, I think.
I'm not actively losing because I feel like I'll have to check my weight the next time, but I feel like I have been overeating for so long, and now I'm trying to bring it back down. But then there's been a couple of days where I'm like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going over.
Right.
It's gonna eat this, and I'm gonna be 400 calories over, and I don't care because I'm fine. Like I'm like.
But you're also earning those calories running too, though.
There's that. So it's like I think that I'm still figuring it out.
I'm
like,
honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm still figuring out. I'm trying to just fucking enjoy it.
Because you're still running like 4 miles a day. I mean, that's 500 calories. For me, that's 500 calories.
For me, it's like 6 or something, but it depends.
So that's a whole meal. That's like a whole 600 calories to me is like a whole meal. Or one lick of ice cream. Yeah.
So, but this is the kind of this is brain talk. This is the kind of fucking shit that the thoughts. That's the word I'm looking for. Brain talk.
Compulsive.
I'm very compulsive.
Yeah.
And it doesn't
Whereas
matter.
My portion control has a lot to do with the program, where I have to tell myself, nope, you've already got what you need and you're on your numbers. So just go to bed. Go to bed. Like, it's almost early recovery shit. Cause usually it's in the evening. Cause at work I can hold it together pretty. But it's usually in the evening at the house, and I'll be like, no, it's just time to go to bed now. Just like when you first quit drinking. I just go to bed. I go to bed at like 8. I'd like fall asleep at 7:30, 8 o'clock, man. I'd just pass out actually sometimes. Like sober. I'd be watching a movie and just pass the fuck out on the couch completely sober. Because my body was just redlining for so many years. And after that I learned that it's so funny that sleep was my biggest defense against active alcoholism, was just going to sleep.
That in Halo 4 or whatever it was?
Yeah, no, it wasn't Halo. It was Last of Us and Grand Theft Auto 5, yeah. And Far Cry 5, Far Cry 4, 3. One of the Far Cries, one of the early ones.
Yeah. I liked Far Cry 5. I enjoyed it. I still couldn't beat it. I couldn't beat the last guy.
You couldn't?
I couldn't get it. Maybe I should jump back into it, but I think it's too late. That was like a year ago.
The hardest thing for me was catching a fish. Legendary fish. You're supposed to catch this legendary fish, and I couldn't do it. It took me 30 minutes, and I couldn't do it. And I was like, fuck this game. I had already beat it. I was just trying to get like 100% it. And then I was like, wait, I don't want 100% this. That's lame. I just want to enjoy the story and move on. Maybe replay it later when I'm bored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that Grand Theft Auto is ever going to put out another story?
Yes.
Or are we just...
No, you're not going to get DLC, but there's something in the works, I think. I've been watching my YouTube videos. Something's happening.
That's good, because I'm tired of the online. I know that they've made fucking billions of dollars off of children.
Oh, yeah, you're not going to get DLC. You're not going to get an add-on to the previous story, but we'll probably get a new story.
Yeah.
And Kodos, he'll be racing.
He'll be racing to the strip club.
Racing, dude.
All right. Well, we should
get in groups with us too, and he's just like, "Nah, I'm gonna go race." I'm like, "All right, Fast and Furious. I'll see you later, buddy."
Well, he found some stuff that I didn't even know about. That one time we played, he's like, "We're gonna go shoot up these hillbillies up in the mountains." I was like, "I've never been up here before."
He's a hop in, Johnny. Yeah. Great.
So, we should probably stop this so people don't have to listen to us talk about video games here.
Yeah. Well,
but
right on, man. I hope that we apologize again for the sound quality. It's just, I don't know. I'm gonna have to reinstall GarageBand or talk to my wife and be like, "What are you doing to your own computer?" But yeah,
we'll figure it out.
Thanks again for listening. Our music, as always, is by Neglect. You can find more of his stuff at neglect.bandcamp.com.
And you can find us on all social media platforms that matter: Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And you can reach us at aisforalcoholic@gmail.com.
Talk to you later.
Yeah.